Welcome to Older Militarist Radio TV, where lifelong Catholics will do is all for free, and for the love of Jesus Christ, and for Holy Mother, the Church. We'll defend our Holy Mother, the Church. Today we begin our next episode of Agent Sniper, the triple Polish agent, where he now gets to talk, to Director of FBI by his next letter, which is chock full of information. So here we begin. The problem was simple but fundamental. Who was Sniper? Confirming an informant's identity was conventional first step in establishing his bona fide, but as Lieutenant Bagley, who handled all the early correspondence, recalled, we did not know who he was. He even hid his nationality. Without Sniper's name, much less which service he worked for, it was impossible for the CIA to determine whether he was real or a KGB dangle, whether his offer of intelligence was genuine or a new Soviet provocation. And Sniper did not make the task any easier. Early tests on his two letters of April 1958, the one addressed to Ambassador Taylor and the other to J. Edgar Hoover, showed that the writer had adopted good tradecraft. There were no fingerprints indicating he had worn gloves, and the papers bore no identifying marks, which might help analysis work out who had prepared them. All the agency could do was sit back and wait for the volunteer agent to get in touch again. In May 1958, less than a month after his opening gambit, a further Sniper letter landed in the CIA dead drop in West Berlin. Like one of its predecessors, it was typed in German, addressed to the FBI, and began, "So geehrter Herr Director," or "Dear Mr. Director." However, the writer had evidently anticipated suspicion that his anonymity would generate, so he now offered proof of his good intentions. Copies of highly classified NATO documents, which had been obtained by the KGB. Now, this is how the English translation is of his message. In order to convict you that the collection of top secret informations through a source agent of the Soviet Polish intelligence is factual and a true one, I take liberty as far as I can to supply you with certain fragments from the copies of protocols of NATO. If you will compare these with the originals, you will see my information is true and correct. The papers included had come from the NATO conference held at the Palais des Chalets, Paris, on December 16, 1957. It was the first summit attended by the leaders of all the member nations and had been subject to strict secrecy, not least because it discussed the defense strategy of the Western Alliance and unanimously agreed covertly to deploy intermediate-range ballistic missiles in Europe, while simultaneously conducting overt negotiations with Moscow. Sniper had obtained portions of the most sensitive sections of the debate, including statements by Secretary of State John Foster Dulles about the new weapons for NATO's defense, and a commitment to add $625 million to a loan fund for the economic reserves for the underdeveloped countries of the free world. Sniper even provided a transcript including the exact time of its delivery of President Eisenhower's request that delegates take a few moments for silent prayer. He also gave precise details of how and when Moscow had acquired these documents. They had been sent to Polish intelligence by one of its agents in January 1958, less than a month after the summit took place. Warsaw duly shipped them via special messenger and through special military airplanes to the KGB in Soviet Politburo. The paper strongly suggested that NATO had been penetrated and that one of the delegates or support staff was spying for the Soviet bloc espionage services. But the level of detail and its accuracy also offered significant proof of Sniper's integrity, and as further letters arrived in a series of CIA dead drops, Gestapo agents were presumed to be constantly searching them out across divided Berlin. Alternatives were set up in the Tiergarten Park and the public toilet at Berlin Zoo's train station. The evidence that he was a real and reliable source of much needed intelligence mounted month by month. Sit back, folks. Get nice and comfy and watch this video. Hope I'm speaking clearly. Don't forget, get yourself a copy of the book, which is linked in the show page on the website. So you'll have all this information yourself. I'm only going to do a certain amount of chapters so that I won't spoil the entire book for you, so that you can read it for yourself, reread the parts that I've done programs on, sharing the information for you. In Bern, Lieutenant Bagley also became a true believer in the mysterious anonymous spy, and soon worked out that that Sniper must be a senior Polish intelligence officer, working in connection with the KGB. This dual role explains how he came by the wealth of his material. It took only one or two more letters from him to persuade me that Sniper was not only genuine, but also invaluable. He occupied a special position of trust within the KGB, and thus learned a lot from his KGB friends, mostly but not all involving operations connections to Poles and Poland. James Angleton, however, remained profoundly wary. As a chief of counterintelligence, suspicion was a default position. Gift horses bearing such timely and evidently real Soviet secrets were to be distrusted as a matter of course and presumed to be strategically placed source of disinformation. Angleton's fears were not wholly groundless. The trust might have seemed like an ancient history, but the Wind debacle showed that adversaries in Moscow and Warsaw had long memories and appetite for leading the CIA down a tortuous and costly garden path. Ironically, Sniper himself added fuel to this smoldering skepticism when, in mid-1959, he forwarded an internal KGB report on the formation of a new unit dedicated to creating a long-form deceptions. Following is an extract of a translation of top-secret paper of a Soviet bloc state security service on the subject of counterintelligence deception. The basic function of the counterintelligence organs is to detect and locate the espionage activity of foreign agents in our country. However, accomplishment of this task does not fully guarantee neutralization of which operations of capitalist intelligence organs, which, after a brief crisis caused by the liquidation of their agents, reorganize their intelligence centers, alter the forms and methods of operation, and continue with greater intensity their espionage activity against us. The solution to this, according to the new KGB strategy, was planned and systematically conducted disinformation to undermine the enemy's confidence in their agent network, to penetrate deeper into their activities, and to strengthen the position of our counterintelligence network. Specifically, these disinformation operations would disguise areas of real intelligence interests to direct the enemy towards areas and installations and subjects where a counterintelligence apparatus is well set up to detect enemy agents and to get money from foreign intelligence. Snipers report enclosure were sent to Howard for assessment. He immediately recognized their importance in the CIA's counterintelligence war with Moscow. Department D, the KGB Disinformation Department, had been formed in 1959. Sniper was the first CIA source to report in detail on its anticipated function and significance. He stated that one of the many objectives of KGB disinformation was the protection of Soviet agents by means of actions designed to mislead Western special services. He listed among specific objectives and types of disinformation operations those designed to discredit accurate information of significance received by the opposition through sources not under Soviet control, such as defectors, thus casting doubt on the veracity of the source of this true information. He stated further that in extreme cases, the KGB would be willing to sacrifice some of its own agent assets to enhance the reputation of an agent penetration of a Western intelligence service. Throughout the 1958, he sent ever more detailed letters, mostly at regular monthly intervals. The intelligence it contained was extensive, as well as startling, covering Iron Curtain military secrets, political intelligence, and above all, revelations about espionage activities and agents. To Bagley, the thousands of pages snipers smuggled out to dead letter drop boxes across Berlin provided a rich bounty of leads, an assessment confirmed by the subsequent internal CIA report. These documents included significant positive intelligence, provided numerous clues to penetrations of Western governments, armed forces, NATO, etc., and contained invaluable counterintelligence information. He, Sniper, reported on KGB organizations, personnel, and at least on those KGB officers with whom he had been acquainted, and he produced extremely valuable leads to KGB operations. He provided the most complete and detailed charts and organization descriptions of the Polish Security Service and the Polish Military Intelligence Service received on any communist service. His meticulous attention to detail and his extraordinary memory made it possible to trace all the organization shifts which occurred in two services since 1945, the control or influence of the Soviets. Sniper also sent detailed information about the number of illegal Rezentura's senior Soviet bloc spies living under deep cover and controlling sub-agents in the West. Sniper reported that there were 53 such illegals in the United States and Canada alone. Quoting conversations with named KGB chiefs revealed that some were tasked with long-term missions extending far beyond conventional espionage. The number of Rezentura's would include MOB networks. MOB comes from the word mobilization, and it is the name given to sleeper networks which would become active in case of war. These missions are primarily sabotage and diversion. They maintain communication periodically, but do not engage in clandestine activity. So, when we have Tucker Carlson and others being praised on Russian television, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Rand Paul, and all those others, and having them being praised and protected and promoted by the Russian intelligence service via memo, via having their name mentioned. Are these people inside the Senate, the House, and television member part of the mob networks. You can probably assume Tucker Carlson is because, as I said, his dad was a war council reporter. But then we have Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, Mitch McConnell being helped by the oligarch who owned the biggest aluminum plant in Russia, which also invested in the aluminum plant in Kentucky. It is in the districts which helped get Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, and Mitch McConnell re-elected personally. So we must assume that they might be part of this network. Assume, but we don't have proof. But how they're being promoted and protected and everything sure points to that. Now we're going to get into some Polish intelligence work. Now, some of the information they put to the side to be a long-term careful handling, they had good reason to do so. Among the reams of reports which landed in the dead drops were documents indicating a more pressing problem: a highly developed Polish intelligence program to entrap and compromise U.S. diplomatic staff during their postings in Warsaw. The CIA recorded the details in Sniper's growing file. The UB had a pool of attractive female agents who were used against all Western diplomats. If a Westerner made the acquaintance of a Polish woman outside the UB pool, an effort would be made to remove the latter from the social scene of the Westerners and substitute one of the female UB co-opted workers or agents. In several cases, the association had ended in marriage, and the Polish woman would be exploited as an access to her husband. Sniper's letters evidently provided sufficient detail for the agency to identify and investigate specific cases. The results were troubling. In 2 cases cited by Sniper, the Western diplomat has had a successful career in his country's service. In both cases, the KGB had taken the case from the UB. Both diplomats were reported by the CIA to the security services of his respective country. There are many other examples of the female UB agent marrying Westerners or leaving Poland with the assistance of a Western diplomat. This Red Swallow's entrapment program highlighted a growing problem in handling Sniper's intelligence reports. For almost a year, the CIA had kept them to itself, determined that no whisper of their existence should reach the rival intelligence division of the FBI. But many of the compromised diplomat staff regularly traveled to the United States. Worse, some were American Foreign Service officers who routinely rotated back to Washington before moving on to other sensitive postings. I remember Taylor Marshall program where he suggested all guys that should go to Poland and get a Polish wife and bring him back. And this wasn't, and this is long before I ever began to dip my toe into all these secret societies and spying and everything. Now I realize how foolish it was for him to say that. Because in Warsaw, there is a hotel full of Russian women, well, Polish women who are Russian sympathetic, where all the volunteers go and get rested up and refitted to go back to Ukraine. And we came to know about it because they told us about it. So it still goes on in Poland. Something to think about, folks. A few weeks before Christmas, the reports were sent across Washington and delivered to the FBI Domestic Intelligence Division. Here, at least 6 senior members of the espionage division were tasked with determining whether Sniper was genuine or Soviet provocation. One of them, veteran agent John R. Nopel, later testified in a secret session of the U.S. Senate Internal Security Subcommittee. This information came over from the Central Intelligence Agency, which said, "We are in receipt of this information from a source." I remember that there was a great deal of discussion as to his authenticity and credibility. In other words, that he was possibly a plant. By February 1959, Nopel subsequently told the senators that the Bureau had reached a conclusion that Sniper's information was valid, and that he was a reliable source. But because Sniper had identified U.S. diplomatic staff, the FBI was required to inform the State Department after corroborative evidence had been developed to either dispute the claim or establish it. The Bureau sent their reports back across Washington to Foggy Bottom. Sniper himself remained completely unaware that his letters to Hoover had been diverted into the CIA's clutches, or that the agency had shared them with the State Department. He continued sending lengthy and detailed reports, and the CIA continued its deception, always citing its responses and requests for additional material in the name of the FBI director. In doing so, as Lieutenant Bagley later admitted, it was putting the mysterious informant's life in danger. Moscow satraps viewed him as a special confidant inside the UB and had been turning to him personally with their questions they felt too sensitive to ask through formal liaison. In the process, he had come to know a lot about their most secret agents in the West. But in his special knowledge lay Sniper's special problem as well. What he had learned about Moscow's moles inside Western intelligence services thwarted his purpose on much of as inspiring it. The KGB representatives had made it clear to him that the CIA, meaning its Soviet bloc staff, was penetrated. If he turned there, he knew the news would get back to Moscow. The letters were very confusing, Howard Roman called. Everyone analyzed them differently. About 4% of the information in the Sniper's letters turned out to be useful. The rest, in his view, was indecipherable or a marginal interest. In one letter sent at great personal risk, Sniper wrote at great length about the notorious black marketer who smuggled watches to Soviet military officers in Warsaw and undertook occasional spy missions for both the Russians and the Poles. Provided the dates on which this relatively petty crook would be staying in a hotel in Vienna, gave a vivid description of the wig he would be wearing as a disguise, insisted American intelligence agents book an adjoining room. Here they were to drill a hole in the wall, pump sleeping gas through it, and then kidnap the alleged criminal. That was the kind of stuff that took up a lot of room in his letters, Roman said. But then suddenly you would get 2 lines. In mid-1959, 2 of those lines rang urgent alarm bells throughout the CIA. Roman was told to get himself on the next flight to London, where a joint team of senior MI5 and MI6 officers would be waiting for him. Sniper had provided new and explicit evidence that the KGB was running two very active spies, codenamed Lambada 1 and 2, inside Britain's most sensitive intelligence department, the Admiralty in MI6 itself. We have come to the end of that chapter. When we start up the next two episodes on London, they'll be in two separate parts. The first part 1 will be 7 pages long, and part 2 will be 8 pages long. A lot of names, dates, places, quotes from actual documents will be read. I expect severe harassment when those things are read from about MI6 and MI5, and I expect some stuff about what I just read about NATO, so be it. But as our Polish agent is doing, exposing the bad guys, which is what we do here at Order Military Radio TV. So if you want to have a better platform, more professional video presentation so that I'm not looking so slow on video, anything, and want us to have our own studio with real backgrounds and lighting, all the top-notch stuff. I don't have to hold the book. I just have it scanned and put it on a monitor like all the top people do at the television studios. Go to our any of the show pages on our Agent Sniper programs. Down below, you'll see our fundraiser link. Go there and make a generous donation. And I want to thank you all for those who have donated so far. God bless you. And this is Order Military TV signing off. Day is full.